Hello, I am Maddie Dalrymple, and welcome to From Expertise to Authority, where we examine how you can build your professional presence for sideline or second act. More resources are available at theindieauthor.com, and that's indie with a Y, including a downloadable worksheet you can use to document your journey from expertise to authority. In this episode, we'll be exploring the right measure of your expertise, assessing the value you can offer, not the credentials of your peers. One of the most common things I hear from professionals considering whether to share their expertise is some version of, but I'm really not an expert in that. They'll describe decades of experience, a solid track record of results, a sterling reputation among colleagues, and then dismiss it all because someone else has published more or spoken more or has more professional designations after their name. I understand this hesitation. When you've spent your career in a field where expertise is the baseline, where everyone around you is knowledgeable, your own expertise can start to feel ordinary. And when you look at people who are already visible authorities in their field, the gap between where you are and where they are can feel insurmountable. So you tell yourself you need to learn more or to do more research, get another credential. And every day you wait is a day that someone who needs what you know, who could make a better decision or avoid a costly mistake or find a clearer path, doesn't have access to it. I want to challenge that instinct because I believe it's based on a misunderstanding of how expertise creates value. Let's talk about the peer comparison trap. When most people think about sharing their expertise, they imagine a bar they have to clear, some threshold of knowledge below which they have no business putting themselves out there. They set that bar by scanning horizontally, measuring themselves against their peers, asking whether they know as much as the people beside them, whether they are as credible as others at their level. It's a question about who they are relative to their colleagues. That horizontal gaze has genuine value. Your peers are the people who keep your expertise sharp, challenge your thinking, and open up collaborative possibilities. But it's the wrong measure for deciding whether you're ready to share what you know. The more useful measure looks in a different direction entirely. Not, am I as qualified as my fellow experts, but what do I know and who might benefit from it? You could be the least experienced person in your peer group and still have years of knowledge that would be genuinely illuminating to someone just starting out. That shift is exactly what Sara Rosett describes as the reframe that got her past her own hesitation. Sara is the USA Today bestselling author of over 30 mysteries. After building that body of work, she expanded into nonfiction books that help other authors with craft and process. When I asked her what it took to trust herself as a teacher, she told me that even after publishing her first dozen books, she still wondered whether she was qualified to advise anyone. What shifted her thinking was a simple reframe. You just have to be a little further down the road than the people who are starting. Not the world's foremost authority, just far enough along that you can offer something genuinely useful to someone navigating terrain that you've already navigated. So what knowing enough actually looks like? Here's an example from my own experience. I have areas of genuine expertise when it comes to ways professionals can build their authority. I've written books on podcasting, on becoming an author speaker, on co-authoring. But when I work with professionals on building their authority, some want to explore the idea of creating online courses, something I've considered but never pursued. I find the idea of keeping a course updated more intimidating than keeping a book updated, and I haven't wanted to take on the learning curve of a course hosting platform and all its associated processes. And I'm not inspired by the idea of trying to find ways of being available to course participants without that access becoming an activity that competes detrimentally with my other work. However, I can see how online courses could be absolutely the right option for certain people. And so when the topic comes up in consulting sessions, I acknowledge the limits of my experience in that area, I describe the reasons I haven't chosen it for myself, and I offer resources for clients who want to pursue it for themselves. It doesn't mean I need to remove myself from consulting about ways professionals can reach their audiences just because I have never dived deeply into one of those ways myself. So how can we reframe the question? None of this is an argument against deep expertise. If you have it, it's a tremendous asset. But deep expertise in a single domain isn't the only foundation for bringing value to others. You might have enough knowledge in an area to orient people, to help them ask better questions and point them toward deeper resources. The fluency behind that guidance, the things you do so naturally you've stopped noticing them, is exactly what they're trying to find. You might, like Sara, have a dozen books worth of hard-won experience behind you and still risk underestimating what that's worth to someone just beginning the same journey. The barrier most professionals face isn't actually a lack of knowledge. It's a misunderstanding of what creates value, which is not whether you're the definitive authority, but whether what you know can help someone who needs it. Now it's your turn. What do you know about your field, your process, the mistakes you've made and corrected that would be genuinely useful to someone earlier in their journey? If you'd ever like to revisit this content, you'll find the text version at Substack at Maddie Dalrymple, video on YouTube at Maddie Dalrymple, and audio on the From Expertise to Authority podcast. And if you'd like support developing a personalized pathway from expertise to authority for yourself, please check out my consulting services at theindyauthor.com/authority. If you're an event organizer, I'd love to share with your community a framework they can use to develop their own path. And if you'd like to get in touch, just drop me a note at Maddie@maddydalrymple.com. Thank you for listening.